All right, we're ready. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another AI stream here. We got some nerds you guys all met before. They're all working something in AI, something smart. We cut off Ken because he's not smart enough yet. I don't know. Got a bunch of random topics to talk about. If you got any questions, say them in the chat. We're going to go over all the hot tweets. Jerry, can we start off with the first thing? Show me my first tweet here. Anakin Luke in the house. How are you? We got big boy Sam, the evilest man in the entire world, tweeting, I am nervous about the impact AI is going to have on future elections. I might have ruined them. No. At least until everyone gets used to it. Personalized one-on-one persuasion combined with high-quality generated media is going to be a powerful force. Obviously, we've talked about this before. You're the one that caused it, Sam. Like you did this. Don't tweet after it's done. So
hey, he's nervous.
I mean, I think it's 100%.
We're all looking for the guy who did this.
I mean, who here's had their grandma get called saying? So I got one of these calls. If you guys don't know, my first name actually is David. David, you're in jail. They said they need $1,000 from you, and they call and tell your grandma. And then that's from just a random person calling up. Wait till they're cloning my voice. I've got thousands of hours on Twitch. You can definitely clone my voice pretty easily, and it's going to be, Grandma, I messed up bad. You got to save me. We're going to do the exact same thing, only for elections.
Don't know if you've seen, like, just in terms of the whole cat and mouse of the thing, a lot of people using voice cloners to impersonate elders.
Yeah.
And then, like, scam the scammers.
Oh, that's sick, too. Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah, what's his name? Kit Bogus. He's, like, the greatest person ever who does that. Yeah, only takes a minute of voice to clone on 11 labs. Yeah, it's like a minute of voice, and then
It's incredible.
All the
some
papers
forms
been showing.
of entrapment need to be legalized.
Wait. Some forms of entrapment? Oh, you mean? Oh, you're right. That way, it should be. Yes. If you're getting a scammer, scamming should be illegal.
Scamming the scammer.
Yeah, scamming the scammer
Should
here.
be a whole agency.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, you all know what this tweet is for, though. I mean, come on. Guys, it's going to really affect the election. How are we going to know it's true or not? How will we know? Does anyone have any ways we could prove that you're a real human with biometric data? Maybe an eyeball scan? Come on. It's just Sam trying to get us to scan our eyeballs again. So
I mean we got the Trump versus Biden Twitch stream going on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could just take a snippet of that, of them saying a couple things, and spread that around, and that could easily sway some opinions.
No, totally, 100%. Yeah. We've seen so many things go viral that are totally incomplete here. Sam says, although not a complete solution, raising awareness is better than nothing. We're curious to hear ideas now that we've caused this problem. Yeah. Technium with the best response.
Banger.
Just, nah.
I got to say, Technium is so hilarious.
And the next one's like election.
Elections? Oh, dude. First of all, we're definitely getting, these are not the most, I wonder if these actually are the most popular responses. They're probably not. These are being served to me. These are the people that I'm following that are proper. Okay. Oh, man. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm pretty scared of this. Good job. You just get a good job, Sama, for that? That's it? Okay, blockchain and AI, obviously, people are saying that.
X is going downhill.
What do you mean it's going downhill?
What are these comments? I mean, like, I want to hear about accelerationism and how
those are
Sam
Bagan's
these are my NFT people. They're all trying to push. Remember, all they care is they're like,
algorithm here.
someone says, hey, this AI is gonna fuck something up. They're literally all going, oh, can we use blockchain? Can we use blockchain? Our back's gonna go up. Oh God, please be blockchain. So yeah, it's not like, yeah. Keep it going. Make history, Sam.
Not gonna lie, I've noticed myself the comments have gotten a little sideways on X lately. It feels a little harder to follow the conversation.
Well, there's a reason why for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called that if I make a banger comment, no matter what it is, and it goes viral, I'm going to get paid money. So I don't care what I'm saying. I just want to make banger comments. And we all know the best way to make a banger comment.
Oh, yeah.
Anger people. Remember, the more people you anger, the more people interact, the more money I make. So
wise.
Why? Yeah.
Danger of algorithms, man.
Yeah, 100%. Start by eliminating voting machines and mail-in ballots. Okay. Is this a threat? Is this a threat? Yeah. I mean, I think we're all in agreement right here of like this is going to be a bad thing. I'm just going to watch it play out though.
This is engagement bait from Sam.
Yeah. He's trying to get paid.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, he's trying.
And maybe it'd be fun. We could go around the table once or something, share our kind of thoughts on politics and AI.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Oh wow.
Ken, let's go.
Big one.
Oh, geez, I'm first.
Yeah, you're first.
Oh man. Keep him out of it. But that's probably impossible. So.
Keep him out of it. What do you get out of here, man? We're here to accelerate.
We want the culture.
He's
novels.
going Butlerian jihad.
I'm not even gonna let you say your answer yet because we want AI. We should have at least one senator who's AI. It's not a big deal. Just one, maybe two.
Yeah, what about representation for our robot?
100%, one of the biggest problems
what
we
are
have
you,
right now.
We're gonna have to
human
make duplicates
chauvinist?
of them.
Yeah, you are a little bit human-centric, and I've been noticing that you've been... he pushes the robots around.
What are you, a speciesist?
Yeah, you are a little bit species. Yeah. You're a carbonist.
I mean, we joke, but this is probably something we will be talking about in the next 5 or 10 years, right?
Well, we're
But
talking about it right now.
well, you're right, but I mean, like for real, like it's
I
pretty
think,
interesting.
Yeah, we talk about it right now like something that's about to happen, but it hasn't quite happened yet. But I think it will happen slow enough for people to kind of be able to look the other way, be like, oh, that doesn't look great, and kind of, there was a tweet earlier today I was reading, I forget by who, about the surveillance state and like how, look what happened with technology and social media and all the IoT devices that we have now and how you could use that data and sell it and the whole black market of data selling. That was something that we were completely against 10 or 20 years ago, and it's kind of just crept its way up and now it's kind of here and we just kind of accept it as it is. What are we going to do about it now? And I think it will be very similar when it comes to AI being embedded in social systems, and just like even separate from AI, just like an algorithmic decision making has been something that's been part of credit systems and insurance systems for a long time, and they're just going to be ramping these things up, and there's going to, now that we have LLMs, they're much more adaptable and generalizable, and they could be used in different areas to automate decision making, and it's just going to happen more and more. They're going to get better, and eventually, it will just be, that's the way of things, and no one really, bats an eye about it. And will that be good?
I think it's, so here's what I'm doing. From now on, I'm open for hire now, okay? So whoever wants to hire me, I will help you get elected. And we're going to start working on building the right tools. This is tool number one, right? Because who cares about what's going to go evil and what's wrong? We're just going to build the tools, make some money. We'll figure out what happens later, okay? So if I'm a candidate and I want to get my message out there and a bunch of people don't know what my message is here, I could definitely build a little chatbot. That'll be really easy for them to explain, right? Would a chatbot not be an easier way of explaining policies than what we have right now, FAQs and listening to town halls and all this dumb, like reading your one sheets? They don't make sense. I can go in there and say, okay, great. What are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? Boom, here's my answers right away. Hey, I live in LA. I'm worried about this. You give me these custom responses, and I'm going to be able to learn a lot faster, like, who's for me.
Yeah.
Right? And so we can go even further now. What we'll do is we'll make a website that is going to pretend like it's a generic website, right? And you'll put in all of your information. It's going to try and tell you who you should vote for based off of your personal beliefs. Once you put everything in there, though, we'll craft a debate to make you vote for my candidate the best possible way, using the power of an LLM specifically trained to convince people of politics, which we haven't seen any publicly yet.
Yeah, but like these
Is
kind
that
of
you saving
systems
democracy?
at kind of like
Well,
a
I'm
more
not saving
basic
it. I'm-
level are already
very
in
good.
place. It's how, these campaigns are very data analytics focused. They're scraping data from social media. They're understanding their voter bases. They're understanding how the people on the edge can be converted. Like, it's all being done already. There's just like a next step for that to become more automated and take the humans more out of the loop of the process. And that's where it's like, at what point are we, able to continue steering it in the correct way? And what point is it kind of just like too much of a clusterfuck, too much just automation everywhere? It's hard to make sense of just sort of like the Twitter repository.
But it's in our
where it's
system
just
right now,
like
it's
a
too much of
shit
a
show. It
clusterfuck.
takes forever to refactor it. It's hard to figure out what would break if you changed one thing, and that's the kind of system that we could potentially build.
I'm saying, look at right now American politics. It is a clusterfuck. It is hilarious. It is ridiculous. It's take off work, go stand in line for hours. It is like the most ridiculous, and then getting information about actual candidates and comparing them together. It's like a giant search everywhere.
Talk about a caucus, how archaic is that to show up enough to stand there until, your votes get counted?
Yeah, totally. But you can't trust machines, though, for counting votes. So
Obviously not. Just for decision making.
It's gonna get dark.
Just
real
for
quick.
you.
yeah.
I'm a little
Not
curious too. I don't even mean to interrupt Tom, but I was kind of curious your perspective. I know Tom's been working on some products that are for kind of the influencer marketing space. Do you think these products are in a place where they're going to be a big player?
Oh, I mean, definitely.
In the
right? Like,
election?
people are easily swayed in their opinion when you bring up certain ideas that help them have their worldview furthered. And
Oh, especially when there's a paycheck behind that too, right?
And like, I mean, I'll be interested to see, not like once we have just one layer of this, but like multiple layers of like, okay, we have the bot that argues for the candidate, but then we have the bot that notices that you're reading with them and messages you and like, that bot's wrong. Here's X, Y, Z, Y.
Yeah.
And that's where
We'll sell both those bots too.
Right?
Both of them,
Sell
right?
both of
No
them,
matter what.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think overall, it's just going to lead to a world where voicing an opinion doesn't matter as much.
Interesting. Do you think that will mean that people kind of shut down to hearing discourse even further? Or
There is this new tool that basically allows you to pay a lot of money for AI to push articles on you to Forbes and to, I think, 3,000 outlets out there, online outlets. So that's like.
But that was so that exists.
journalism.
Yeah, these
But that
type of
existed
spam
before.
mechanisms have existed for
Now
a
they're just
number
automated.
of
Yeah, but
years.
now it's,
People
but now
sold
exists
books
on
of
all the,
contacts.
big sites.
I was going to share it as part of talking about this. I phone banked for Obama, both of his elections. Put in a bunch of time doing that.
Real quick, I already asked this before we started, but I'm dumb. What is phone banking?
Yeah, so it's literally like a kind of community-driven process. You meet the people at your local action office, and they have like a pizza party, and you show up there and hang out, and then you're given a phone with a bunch of numbers, and you call them, and you talk to the people, and you don't put too much.
You're blind calling people though.
Yeah,
Cold
yeah.
calling people. That sounds like the hardest. That sounds like absolute torture. I got to be honest, Stanley. That sounds like the scariest thing in the world to me.
I myself am a very shy nerd, and so was very much doing this as part of a desire to take action. And I think that's what's kind of cool about it, though, is a lot of people have had that experience of kind of finding community and people to kind of organize with and take action with. And it's kind of cool. And one of the things about it is obviously like everyone hearing this is probably like, I don't want to be getting a phone call and having someone talk to me about their opinions. But that also wasn't what we would really try to do. Like, we were mostly looking to connect with people who were inclined to vote for Obama anyway, and make sure they were supported to get to the polls, make sure they're registered to vote, that kind of thing. But yeah, I actually think in Obama's elections, those kind of operations had a pretty strong impact. And so I'm actually really curious if we'll see any sort of like AI phone banking this time
My
around.
brother did that as well. I would think Obama was probably one of the better, more charismatic candidates for young people to actually interact and cold call. A lot of kids were passionate about that, and they did a fantastic job at rallying people like
I
you.
feel like that cold calling doesn't work. That was so long ago though now
No.
compared to
Exactly.
right now, right?
Definitely.
well,
Then
in
Imagine they would do it for
2008
Biden
was
now.
a completely
Oh,
different
yeah.
world.
It's just about
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah.
And Target, like
Yeah.
cold calling 18-year-olds doesn't work. Cold
Yeah,
calling
yeah.
60-year-olds works for sure.
I gotcha. See, I'm only thinking about how to utilize the youth, and I'm trying to use memes. And
Scammers
Don't
do it.
vote.
No, they don't vote yet. We're trying to capture them though right now. Okay, trying to get them on our side
I
before
just wanna
voting even
capture the
matters.
people that actually vote, not
Yeah.
the people that I have to convince to vote.
Yeah, trick old people then is what the plan is.
Exactly, right? And LLMs, something they're probably incredible at, tricking old people.
I mean, there's
A+.
probably a good chance that it improves the narratives of politicians.
Is that what we
plain-
really want, though, is improved narratives without improved output?
I think the algorithms at their
That's true.
current power are pretty destructive. I know I'm currently addicted to shorts on every platform.
I'm wearing them right now.
It's ridiculous.
It's
hot
I
out.
actually had a screenshot on my phone today, and I was clicking fucking random things, and it wasn't doing anything, and I wasn't getting a hit of dopamine, and I realized, like, holy shit, like this is a pretty profound addiction at this point,
Oh, it's
right?
bad
So
Yeah.
there's two ways it could go about. Either the AI can make it completely worse and just like really make the ability to trick human beings into doing their bidding, or it could have a positive impact by actually improving like the tone of certain people's campaigns, right? I mean, John was saying that the medical doctor was more passionate, more compassionate than the physical doctor. I mean, that's a very real thing. You have those
The
type
AI
of
doctor.
AI, yeah.
situation. The AI doctor, I should say. So maybe the AI politician can speak to certain types of people with certain types of beliefs and do a better job at actually playing devil's advocate and taking both sides of the story.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Like today, you could use it for good things, or you could use it for bad things. It kind of goes both ways.
You see, I mean, there's an election cycle coming up right now. Let's think about very practically how do we trick these certain old people into voting a certain way to get whoever we want elected. That's one way. And then there's like the thinking deeper into the future about, because that's going to be this year, and in 4 years it's going to be so radically different after that. It's not, the techniques won't even matter the same way. So I'm not. This one's a little too close, I think, to like really focus on tricking people. So I'm just going to the next election here, which is we need to it's like Bill Clinton playing the saxophone. Everyone's like, whoa, that guy's cool. So what I need is for my candidate is what is every hobby out there? Well, I'm going to have videos of them, AI generated, them playing Magic the Gathering. Here they are playing football. Here they are going to Broadway. Everyone's going to be like, I like that candidate. They like Broadway like me. Because I don't think a lot of people really care about what politics are. They just want,
Pretty scary to imagine that too. And then also imagine that kind of like you could do some pretty scary stuff with A/B testing, where kind of you generate yourself doing 1,000 different activities and then sort of take data on test marketing them to different mailing lists.
But I think even with that, there's some authenticity to it. Like if you want to target Magic the Gathering people and you make an AI video, whether or not it's AI, the Magic the Gathering people would still probably think that's cool. So like maybe more targeted. Maybe the AI could suggest more niche targeted marketing.
No, and
pull over a
it
few million votes.
It definitely doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? But at the same time, if we kind of go like, oh, this candidate has such a good AI that they've convinced young people that they play all their hobbies and that's why they're getting votes.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, something authentic and policy related.
But no, who cares? But who cares about like what is kissing babies and shaking hands? That is like you do that to get elected. There's nothing to do. It is like he's a real personable guy. I like how he speaks. He seems confident. We like
except, and again, I just love talking politics. So forgive me for engaging on this one because I don't even think I think your point is very well made. Anyone following Ron DeSantis's campaign?
Yeah, some, yeah.
So this was a campaign that sort of like the party establishment blessed him. They were like, this is the guy we need to bet on. Trump's going to be a liability. All the donors lined up to him. But the guy has a personality of wet sawdust, and it's come through.
Yeah,
and,
struggling.
I think in his case, particularly, you're really seeing a leadership deficiency. So, I definitely think that our old political system with shaking hands, kissing babies, like making it to the Iowa steak fry, those things like are out of date, they're archaic, but I think that the history they come from, there were important parts of leadership and personability that were being communicated by people having to check those boxes, Yeah.
But I mean, right now, I don't know, from the last election, well, not the last election, election before, Trump ushered in like the meme election. And the fact is there's a million memes to share no matter what. If I want to be a Trump, I can literally go on Facebook. I've got 1 trillion memes. I've got 1 billion, right? Like to share and to be on my side and to be excited about. It's who is generating those for people, right? Like what content do I have to like share and be excited about stuff? So Trump has a million trolls working 24/7 on it, right? If I'm not going to go that Trump election, can I use AI or stuff like that to help supplement those memes? And can the memes be good from that? Because
Can Ron DeSantis use AI to make himself look more charismatic?
he's going to lose no matter what. I feel like that one. But yeah, it's going to be rough. That's going to be tough. Yeah.
I once did some data science work on Tinder's matching algorithm.
Oh.
Which was really interesting because like we were curious about these kind of things. Like it's sort of like, what do you want to be doing in your pictures to elicit a response from different populations of people?
Right, you want to hold a fish, right?
Oh yeah, play guitar.
No, 100%. And obviously, pets and
I knew it.
found lots of weird patterns too with like having stuff on shelves in the background was something people liked.
Because they're like, whoa, he put shelves up. I've never put shelves up before. So
No,
now
like-
I definitely feel called out, buddy.
Wow, we should put some shelves up.
Yeah.
Fuck.
100%, like a
French.
weird one though, and exactly what the kind of subconscious calculus that the consumer is making
Yeah.
is something that's a little hard to figure
Well,
out.
and I think that's a big point too. Like you mentioned, like the presidents or people who are running for president tend to go out and kiss babies and go to the the local joints and show up and shake hands and stuff. And I think that this is a common analogy that gets used with AI and whether it's going to be harmful or not. Oh, well, humans already do this. The problem is not whether or not the thing itself is problematic. It's more so the scale and power of that thing exceeds what humans are capable of.
Yeah, totally.
But also humans are involved, right? I mean, like it's not necessarily what the politicians or the campaigns are going to do and how they're going to use this stuff. It's how the actual voters are going to be able to increase the production of memes and use ChatGPT and Midjourney to create, Superman versions of Trump or whatever the hell they want. I mean, that's I think is going to be the real thing that we see kind of based
well,
on
it's
the
also
meme
like
comment.
disinformation, and not even necessarily disinformation, but like the spread of information, and how information flows through society, and like how that we there's going to be such an upscale of the amount of information that's
there's a whole
produced.
field related to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
You know what it's
this
called?
What is
Memetics. And who's the master? Sorry.
But maybe it just
Pepe.
leads to a level of numbness where just nobody believes anything any longer. I mean,
that's
that's
where-
already
that's
Yeah,
already we're
100%.
already
That's
there.
We're there right
then.
now.
I think
This
we're
is
close to
why
that.
are we
Yeah.
still having that conversation? Even
Well, we've
even
been
I feel we're
post-truth.
just flatlining from this
Yeah.
moment on.
Well, I feel like at
Yeah,
least today,
that's a really
we
good
still
point, Gina.
there's still a class of people who are capable of thinking for themselves, who are capable of using first principles reasoning, reading papers directly, verifying whether or not they get the rocks to float. Like there is a class of people, the kind of science class of. Not necessarily just scientists, but kind of, I don't want to use the word intellectuals, but like kind of, this class of people that is at heart skeptics,
Absolutely.
and really tries to find the truth. And even doing that today is hard because there's so much.
Dude, the problem is you say that and go on Facebook right now, and the people will be like, and we're the ones who are following the truth. And that's why everyone thinks they're that person.
Yeah.
And no matter
Yeah.
what, right? So we're already
It's,
post-truth right now. There's misinformation on either side, and whatever someone tells you on one side, I'm going to say that's not true because I saw this on my side. So it doesn't really matter.
No, but that's off those platforms.
But
I
you,
think
you
you're
could
right.
also
wanna
a
get
lot
back.
of times
Just
you
got
could
too much
you could
cool- got
read
too much cool
through
stuff to
that
say.
when you look at the way that they make their claims. There's often large appeals to authority. When you refute them, there's often straw man arguments or coming at you with calling names and things like that. And it usually becomes pretty easy to detect. But that said, even the skeptics and the truth seekers are just as much victims to cognitive biases. So
It's funny too, because even as we're talking about it, I'm realizing I've really moved towards reflexively not listening to people with strong opinions. Or at least like I kind of have a circuit. where
Stanley
I'm
said he
like-
doesn't listen to me anymore. Sorry.
No, well, Began,
He said he never listened.
Yeah,
Megan,
never.
I feel like you don't try to like push your opinions on people. Like sometimes you share an opinion.
Are
but
you kidding me right now? Are you serious? Vegan not trying to push his agenda?
I'll just change.
on
I'll just
people?
change
Get
what
the
it is
fuck
the next
outta
day
here.
is the key. I'll just, but yeah, keep
Shut
going.
up.
Let me tell you a
Okay,
little
but
something
I mean-
about Go.
Yes.
Began will have a strong opinion on like NeoVim, but he doesn't come to me and is like, oh, there's a pollution conspiracy.
Okay, ask him to install Windows on a computer
Okay, come on.
and
That's
then
like
come back and
That is
talk to me.
offensive. That is offensive, though. That is like.
But
that's-
okay, so this actually is even helpful for what I was wanting to build towards because just before we went live today, we were having a really interesting conversation with Adina about a cultural group she's been a part of for a long time that has some kind of like vetting mechanisms. Right?
Berghain?
Yeah.
Can
I'm
the
like-
bots get into Bergheim? Could you make an LLM
This
that we
is
get accepted
hilarious.
into Bergheim?
That is
100%
really what you
not.
were talking
No.
about?
No.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
that
think
is-
that's ultimately where it goes. No? Like you
It's the
basically
most poetic
create-
description.
Huh?
Sorry, it was just such a beautiful
Okay.
way of bringing up this vetting system. It's Berghain. It's like literally, it's hilarious. Anyway,
What's
Well,
vibe
and
check?
I don't
It's
know.
vibe check.
I don't know what it is, so maybe you guys could even tell me what it is, but that's the part that I heard, that this is a place with
That's
a
why-
vibe check, right?
that's-
it's a
and there I
world
grew
famous
up.
techno club in Berlin, notable for pretty much not closing, opening Thursday, closing on Tuesday morning, 24/7, notoriously difficult to get into.
I know people who put their apartment on Airbnb basically every weekend and just spend the time.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
People fly in from London and they won't book a hotel. They'll just stay at Berghain the whole weekend.
Well, Rolling
Try
Stone
and get
described it
in.
as the world's Berlin's most extreme sex club.
Yes, there's lots of that going on. There's lots of freedom. Lots of
listen, that's
lots
the
of good music.
Avant-garde of culture.
No cameras allowed. There's really no pictures of the inside. There's a few of them floating around.
Okay, so
Somebody
wait.
built Berghain on Minecraft and got a lot of shit.
Oh yes.
He
Wow.
recreated the whole thing, and like he
Oh,
did it
yeah,
out
I've
of
seen that,
love,
yeah.
and then the whole community kind of came after
So
him
it's
because
so the whole community is run by one guy, Sven. This guy right here. So this guy runs this entire.
you got to get a
culture.
picture of
course
him.
his
Look
name
up
is Sven.
Oh, yeah,
look
you
up a
have to
picture of
please
Sven
show a
because he's
picture of Sven.
notorious.
Oh, is it just going to be direct from central casting? I can't wait to see. And again, guys, forgive me for bringing up something a little tangential, but I do think that this idea of like cultures. Oh wow, that's so perfect.
Isn't it? Yeah, imagine waiting for 2 hours and getting rejected by this guy.
I am sorry. I don't have a German accent, but not cool enough.
But yeah, I just wonder if different
Nee,
types of
du nicht.
structures like this, where there's sort of like some cultural gatekeeping, will be more and more important as kind of the predominant culture is increasingly, let's call it, polluted.
Yeah, we've seen this kind of topic before of like as we put out more content, what matters more is who's going to curate it, right? We have more music than ever. It's insane. So what really matters? Is it like the record labels and this and that? It's like, no, we have more options. We all have to choose individual curators. Same thing. If there's more communities and more disinformation out there, who are the curators of truth? Who do we trust? Who do we like that
Try to get
gather
right up on
stuff?
it,
So
keep it.
I don't know. I mean, I think that it's going to keep whatever. I think we're post-truth. I'm not going to worry about convincing anyone. I think what matters more is what medium you're making.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
but
you make a
there
good
was hold on. There's a lot of like discussion about the whole like Trump thing, the indictments, and at this point, each indictment like makes people believe that it's real less on the other side. Is kind of the mentality of it. It's
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
another indictment. Okay, well, they're probably just trying to take him down. This is the man. This is the media. That's the
Yeah.
narrative. So it's kind of that, that same type of thing. It's like we can't believe anything already, and this will likely accelerate that.
Yeah, and that's why I think like mediums like this are pretty important because, with information that's shared through a news outlet that's going to be extremely biased in a certain direction, and then even on social media, it's going to be algorithmically biased to your preferences, so you're going to see less of the opposing opinion. But you have these podcasts and shows that bring on people of different opinions and are able to discuss those things and have humans first doing it, not AIs doing it, because at the end of the day you have to verify the facts yourself, but you should be able to hear opinions from all sides so you have a better picture of which facts to go verify, because if you don't have the right picture of which facts to go verify, you're going to be stuck in the cognitive bias loop.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, I'm into that world. Like, I always want to hear like opposite opinions. I like arguing, and I like controversial things and whatnot. But like, if you actually talk to people like who want to hear different opinions, it hurts. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the podcasts, I do this all the time. I seek out like people like the exact opposite of whatever I'm into to be like, shh, tell me I'm an idiot, and it is hard to listen to. You're literally like, oh, really? Oh, you're cringing. It should feel like that, though. And it takes a while to, like, work through it. No one wants to go there. You right away hear something offensive, and you're like, oh, stop.
Yeah, that's cognitive dissonance.
Just was going to say cognitive dissonance, and there's been this research done where basically it hurts people to change their belief. Like on some level, the brain reacts almost as if it was in pain.
Yeah.
But so we've all seen it. People will go through all kinds of logical contortions to prevent a view from needing to be changed.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what's at play with when I was talking about the surveillance state thing. It's like it happens so slow that like it's just easier when you see like one little blip of like that this is happening. Oh no, look, it's not, or like it's not a big deal, or it's not like as big as it is, because your cognitive biases are preferencing you to this world that you hope is real, and it turns
tracking
out that
will only increase, and there's two sides of that story, right? You have like the surveillance state, which is one side, and then you have a smart city, which is the other side. And a lot of these cities were built with the intention of being futuristic and smart and having cameras and having trash cans that tell you when, like, all of these things are automated and way more efficient. And some of the most net zero emissions cities in the world are these types of cities, and likely
like
you'll have to
line
go
that's
there
neon.
in order to
Like the carbon neutral concentration cap.
in the future,
so
that will
wild.
pretty much be everything. So tracking has been something that's been increasing since really, Web 2 became a thing.
Yep.
And that's not going to slow down. So trying to stop it, I think, is kind of a lost cause at this point.
I just realized
Cool
I
to
can't
see,
keep Sven on the screen. There's naked
Cambridge
people.
Analytica mentioned in the chat too. Such a
Yeah,
odd
I love that
story.
we were all so excited to go over to the threads from Twitter. and then just like forgot about Cambridge. And like, yeah, Zuckerberg, he's gonna save us from Elon. Like,
Zuckerberg's had a pretty big PR campaign going for a while, I think.
yeah.
He's certainly been getting praise. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way. I've actually heard in people that I look.
Well, it's just because he's the opposite of Elon now.
praise
That's,
him.
everyone hates Elon so much that if he's
They're-
going to beat
yeah,
him
they're
up,
leaning
that's
into that
that's
for
all
sure.
that matters. And people
Yeah.
don't even care. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yep.
It's so easy. So like, yeah, that's the key to get anyone back on your side here. So.
Hey, would it be possible if we also tested Adina's mic and make sure?
Oh, they
Hello,
said it sounds
hello.
good. I
Maybe she
think
can give us-
Does it sound good
Anna Kim
now?
says all good,
Oh, good.
and I
good.
trust
Okay.
Anna Kim. So
Thank you.
nice. Yeah. Well, so, no, I was gonna say 'cause, like on I guess the cognitive dissonance thing though, there is a really like hard problem of like where the safe spaces or when do people set time aside to let them go down those routes? Because like AI doomerism is one of them. Where if you aren't a doomer and you actually haven't gone through it and like really open your mind to it, it's a really scary, dark place to go. It's depressing. It's like thinking about, whoa, what if there's nothing? If you're always believed in God and you want to think you're being an atheist, you might have a panic attack, right? And AI doomerism is a like, similar thing, and there's
man.
many fields. So it's like
I,
you have to like let yourself get to panic attack. In my personal belief, which is a very terrible feeling.
It's extremely
I,
difficult.
I
yeah.
had such a hard night when I first read about the basilisk, which no
Yeah.
one should Google, who's listening to this. But it's pretty interesting though. Forgive me. You're right. I probably
It's an
shouldn't
info
have
Thanks for the
hazard.
nightmare,
Big info
Stanley.
hazard, for sure.
cognito hazards.
But that's the name of the game, right?
But to Began's point though, it's sort of maybe a little good for people to have the space in their lives to think about things that are hard, that are scary. Obviously within limits. I'm sorry, Ravenous. I apologize.
Sorry, Rav. I'm sorry, Rav. Oh, man.
Don't
Oh,
worry, it's
man.
not real. That's
We fought girls at
just
home.
remember, if you don't think it's real, then it can't hurt you. It's but yeah, in all seriousness though, it's kind of funny because I almost feel like one of the big stories for me of the past 10 or 20 years has been the depressing lack of wage growth, especially relative to the value that's been created in the economy. And I think one of the things that we lose, not just for the individuals, but for the whole system, is that, little 10 or 20% of people's time that they need to be philosophers, which is, I think, part of the role of being a good citizen is to be thinking about the world that you are, a part of.
Oh, I can't. Can
No,
you post in the
I
chat,
certainly
Jared?
am.
I also
And
don't
that's extremely
appreciate,
hard to
by
do
the way,
when
there's
you don't
something
make
I
enough
would like to say
income
here.
to,
I don't appreciate when people
be
say
living a
this is how it's
comfortable
going
life.
to be and we can actually not stop that, because I don't believe in that. I think it is exactly those narratives that say, those futurists that basically go out and say it's already done, this is how the world is going to be. I do believe that goes, like ultimately it just teaches humans that they will go down that path no matter what, instead of actually reinforcing if we don't want something, it's just not going to happen.
Well, you have to be a rational optimist, essentially.
No, but how do you actually, strengthen the collective intelligence of people again? How do you actually make their own decisions instead of constantly falling into those narrative traps of that's how it's going to be,
Well, so
that's how technology is going to shape our life?
Wealth
Look-
generation is the simplest answer to that. Like give people resources, give people the ability to actually think free and not have to be a cog in the system or not being constantly in survival mode.
I
I
think
mean,
it's,
when I was at the climate COP, right? Everybody was rushing to deal with to work with NEOM, right? The line. That is like the ultimate nightmare. I mean, this thing is like 100% AI surveyed. It's going to include like a credit system that is going to basically slash you on your basic income based on your behavior.
Do you know this
They're tracking happiness, but because they're selling it as carbon neutral, everybody was like, hey, we're using carbon neutral materials.
Well,
We're
that's exactly what I'm
Yeah,
saying, right? That's the opposite side of the story. In order to get to carbon neutral, you need this type of technology. There's really it's a really difficult issue to grapple with because
But I think this is
what do you want?
But this is the point that I'm trying to make. I think climate change is sold to us as like, okay, maybe I'm going to a fine limb right now, but ultimately it is not it cannot be solved top down. It has to be like you have to allow people to create their own societies and to basically create like small societies that can trade with each other and empower them rather than doing like a top-down
in order for population and society to really truly scale, I think it's going to have to be kind of a balance because not everyone can live off the grid and organic and all of that. Future will likely be a combination of highly sophisticated smart cities with tracking and surveillance that is far beyond what we have now, and people living a simpler life where they're still where they still can grow crops and all of that. But like human beings are extraordinarily resilient. Like we
think
figure
so.
out a way to do this. And even with climate change, it's like even if the climate does change, we'll probably figure out a way to adjust and adapt. And if we can live on Mars, we can certainly live on here with a little bit of hotter weather.
Well, right now we cannot.
It's a
lot of
tricky
space
one.
underground.
It's a tricky one. I myself have some substantial worry about some of the directions that climate change could go, but I do remain really optimistic that if we kind of take the approaches that Trick is articulating, and we're flexible and we're willing to accept a world that's a little different than what we've experienced so far, the positive is really possible. But I also really agree with Adina that some of the way that these directions are presented to us sometimes keeps us from finding better directions. The line, a whole different can of worms, but I'm glad you got
the
the
line
point
is-
up there. Because how mad is this? Like, what drugs were involved in this idea?
And I'm
Only the
sure
best
of it.
ones.
This is probably one of those highly surveilled smart
Yeah.
cities with all of the technology that we're talking about are used for surveillance states.
Right.
Yeah, so like, wait, a couple things. Like, the idea that any of us here is like, we've got a plan. Here's how we're going to solve society, and everyone's going to start using their brains and being more philosophical. It's like, no, we're going to enter into a very dark age where people are already fucked up right now. You know what I mean? Like, and we're looking at actual happiness rates, right? We're not going in a good direction with what we've built technological wise. There's going to be a small group of people who care about it, and then there's going to be a bunch of people who are they're fucked, right? And that's okay. Like, we're animals, and shit has not always been the greatest. There's been many times in history where shit's not been that great, and we're just gonna keep going that way. But like, we can't. There's no one solution. Like, go talk to people who aren't thinking about AI at all. About like, hey, we should really start talking about this thing. They're like, I don't care. Shut up, dude. I'm worrying about my rent. I'm worrying about what's on television this weekend. I'm worrying about this, and it doesn't even matter. They're gonna hit 65. It's not. I can't affect them or change them. Now there is a small group of people we can talk to and figure stuff out with, but it's like, it's not going to be everyone. And I think every time we try and figure out, like, what can we do for everyone? You're going down, like, the silliest route ever because we're just, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of us work in
solution-
tech.
yeah.
Go talk to your friends in the Midwest about what you're
solutions-
working on. They're like, you're fucking living in the future that's not real. And I'm like, okay, dude, see you in 5 years, right? It's just like, you can't spend all my time saving them because it's, bye. That's, so who can you help,
I don't see a
It's only
bottom-up
gonna get
solution.
deeper like that because I mean, where you are on the planet has a significant effect on like what kind of a future you live in. I mean, here in LA and SF and California in general, I mean, I go outside and 25% of the cars are electric.
Yeah.
You'd think that we're well on our way to like living in a world where most of our city doesn't have smog because everyone's using electric cars. But I mean, go to middle of America or the middle of Africa and you will find yourself in borderline different time periods.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah, I've always liked the thing is, like, I mean, Nick Land wrote about it, something about how, like, like cities actually, like the gravity actually causes time to increase faster. And it is so true when you just talk to people from different places. Well, everything I talk about, I've had friends actually say, like, 2 years later, that thing we got, or like, a dumb example is, remember when scooters first hit the streets of Santa Monica?
Oh my God.
That first weekend, it was like, what the fuck is happening? We were in the future. It was hilarious. Like, they dropped the scooters in Santa Monica, the birds. Everyone was on them. That day, everyone immediately was on scooters. It was absolute chaos. It was crazy. And I was calling my friends like, the scooter thing's wild. And they're like, what are you fucking talking about? And then
No,
literally, it was like
that's
one
a
by
really-
one, the friends in San Francisco, whoa, what happened? Then it was like New York. Then it happened. And then all of a sudden, like, how, 2 years
and
later,
then
Texas
we
was
had
like,
the-
we
Well,
got
South
those
Park did an
scooters.
episode
That was
about
what I was
that,
gonna say,
like
is that we had
literally
South
like a
Park
week after they dropped. Yeah,
when it hit the
they
mainstream.
were so good.
Also, can we
Just
just take a
scoop-
second to think about the poor venture capitalists involved in Bird? I think currently valued around 40 million, and has taken in over 800 million in investor funding over
We're
the lifetime
sorry,
of the company.
SoftBank.
Listen. Oh man,
So wild.
I remember we said we were here for Bird. I know people who worked at Bird at all these different levels, and if you talk to anyone there, they were just like, "We need to sell this thing. We have to sell this thing. We have to sell this thing. It is a mess on the inside. The code is terrible. The scooters break every 2 days. It was like it was a hot potato from everyone except for, I don't know, some VCs. So no sympathy. No.
I had a good friend who was like a very senior security guy at Snapchat, and then he was poached to handle like device security for Bird, and I heard some shit about coming up cleaning up messes. I wanted to go back to one more thing that Adina mentioned about just kind of like the idea that there's a lot of the stuff in the culture and the conversation that I think makes it hard to find solutions. And, to Trick's point about climate change and like the problem with like a ground up solution, obviously, like, I don't know that there is a ground up solution. We're in a system that's kind of skewed, but at the same time, the way that our role has been presented to us is so fraudulent in climate
100%.
change. Like, we're told, oh, you have a carbon footprint, Ken, and it's your responsibility. And it's just, that's not how it works at all. Like, I think Trick's point is that...
Are you kidding me? Look at right here, dude. Ken, fucking kidding me. I've talked to you about this, okay? 1 year off the earth. We were so close. Paper, man.
All right, I'm sorry.
Also, where'd you find that in Venice? Oh my God, really
more
cool.
sea turtle
Where'd you
dead.
get that at? Because, dude, hook it up.
You were saying?
Bottom up.
But anyway, I take hope, though, that there are some situations where people met with new technologies, new challenges, did find a different way to use it. And I always think of the printing press as a great example of this, The printing press and the ability to create books and literature existed for a very long time, but it didn't really lead to the weird cultural revolution of the Renaissance until certain other factors were in place as well. And one of them was that there were people who weren't happy with the way things were and who saw the printing press as a real opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I think it is important amidst all this for us to keep in mind that there are those opportunities we can seize to move in a different direction as a people.
Yeah, what were all the other factors?
Oh, I mean, I think it was just a bunch of Germans who had things to say, I'm just kind of kidding, but it was...
No, it's true. And also, like, you what you said with the smart cities, yes, but try that in Rome or try that in France somewhere. Like, people are going to, it's a question of culture, of how much resilience people have. And, in Berlin, we all voted Google out. Google wanted to move to Kreuzberg, and they thought they would be welcome, and people were throwing eggs at them, so they had to leave. Like, you don't have to accept these things.
Without a doubt, but those cities will likely be less carbon neutral than the other ones.
And
I
those
don't-
cities will
and-
also
and-
be left in the past. in
Exactly,
general.
and the thing is, it's like
Maybe they're the future.
the technology. It's just a matter of how people end up using it. I mean,
I actually think that
if
Berlin
a
is more
city
carbon
is
neutral
connected-
than... No. Berlin is more carbon neutral than a smart city, because if you just think about it, we're calculating carbon wrong. Like, if we're actually calculating all the steel production or all the rare earth minerals that go into technology and digitalizations are one of the biggest like polluters.
but the population growth and the places in the world where the population is growing the fastest, and these cities are hitting over 10 million people,
And-
on a regular like those. In those solutions, the Rome, the Berlin's approach simply does not work.
Absolutely.
And it
And-
turns out terrible. In every case that all of the old world kind of structures and everything, they've all been basically knocked down to build,
I
to
think
actually
s-
I don't
keep
hear
up
the
with the
argument here.
pace.
Can somebody
I
help me?
mean, like, I think overall it's just a rejection of technical acceleration and a rejection of new technology and those who would bring in new technology, and by bringing in new technology, bringing in new culture and changing the culture. Rejecting those people is how you end up in the past. I mean, Berlin is a city.
But it's actually
that-
not rejection. Chaos Computer Club is a great example. I mean, Berlin has always been at the forefront of like open software, open development.
The question is rejecting
It's just-
Google rejecting technology? No, it's
yeah.
rejecting Google.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah. Like, I don't know when this became synonymous. Like,
Re-
when did we say that actually, like future development is identical with Google?
Well, it's
It's
just a
not-
matter of having 10 million people in a city. The most effective way to keep those cities carbon neutral in the future is likely to have a smart city where people can
What does
track.
Google have to do with
Well,
that,
we
though?
call it.
Google has
But you know that
everything to
Berlin
do
has a
with it,
perfect
because
underground
Google
system and metros and
employs
everything.
the
Like, you
people
still
who tinker
speaking
instead of
from
doing
an
their
American
job.
lens.
Yeah, there's
They are
there's
the
a
biggest
like,
incubator
yeah.
you can
true.
have.
Yeah.
We have
There's
less-
a
I
workforce
don't know,
like
it's very
economic
different.
kind of argument
but
here,
the
which I
population
think
is much less as
is
well.
related to bringing more people into a city, having a city grow, bringing more money into a city. And like, of course, there's, the culture there and how that influences the direction of that and whether or not we accept or reject certain brands in technology. But having those companies in your city is going to bring a certain class of people to your workforce that's very distinct from the kind of blue collar work that brought up all of our societies before the technological revolution.
And a certain class of compensation, which Europe often discounts, but compensation from American companies, compensation from American standards of software development is extraordinarily important for keeping talent in Europe. Without it, talent will flow into countries that compensate these people fairly, as long as they're actually able to go there. And I mean, like, software developers have an extraordinarily hard time coming to America from almost anywhere, because the compensation here is so great that we get every single world-class software developer, besides like the 1% that are ideologues that fight for their rights that way. Yeah. And it's the rejection of technological advancement because of being upset about the cultural implications that come with it is how you get things like shutting down nuclear power plants. How you get things like relying on coal.
First of all, okay, wait. First of all, have you ever spent time in Berlin? Have you ever spent enough time in Europe to actually understand how life works there before you actually cast the judgment?
So I have been to Europe on travel for about a year. I was playing cards in Europe. So
cool.
I was traveling around, going to restaurants, going to city. I was a tourist. Definitely.
When he says cards, though, what kind of cards,
Magic
though?
the Gathering.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Let's keep going.
Because I
year
don't know
you
if
were
you've
doing
ever
that?
been in a train in Madrid, and then if you ever taken a train in New York, but I feel I'm going 200 years back in time, so I'm not sure about.
Wait, you feel like you're going back in time when you go to
Well,
New York? New York,
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure that technological
I lived in
advancement is
Madrid
really
and I
the
lived
word to
in New
use here.
York.
Yeah, maybe
And what I would say is that it is much
older.
cleaner in Madrid. It is much less crowded. But New York's like kind of like an anomaly too in the U.S. Like it's
I don't know. I tried to take the train here. It didn't
It's
look
actually like
the
as
advanced
dirty
technology
as some of
either.
those
Not
subway
LA.
stations are. It is like pound for pound one of the best like public transportation systems
in the U.S.
that we
which
have
doesn't-
in
which
the
doesn't
U.S.
But the
speak well
design-
for us.
Right,
And,
right, exactly. And
I-
I think it's a hard comparison because
I'm
there's
just talking about a sense of technological advancement that I just don't think it's as linear as is being presented here.
Yeah, and I think-
I also think it's interesting because basically a technological advancement can drive a society against crash it against the wall, and then other societies can emerge with a whole different type of technological advancement.
No, I mean,
So I
technology
actually don't
just
believe in this linear narratives of saying, okay, we all need to do Silicon Valley, and if
well,
we're not
it's an
doing it-
interplay. It's an interplay of the cultural values of that society, how they view technology, and how much they adopt it. I mean, look at San Francisco right now. Like that's the most that's the
Not fun.
technological hub of the world, and it's a shit show today.
Exactly.
But that's there's a lot of other things that play into that. It's the politics and the policy and the cultural norms and the differences and the effects of gentrification, like all these different things that play into that the technology is just one part of it. But I think I do agree with Trick in the sense of the long-term horizon. Having these organizations be part of your city because they are at the forefront, they will always have the most money. They will always be the first to, develop new technologies and integrate them into the society around them. There is risk for falling behind in the long term, especially when we get to being really being able to make AI like applications that really change the world and get LK99 superconductors working in all the systems around the world. Like if you have this sort of like manufacturing engineering organization that is working on superconductors in your city, you could probably make a decent bet that you're going to have new like technological infrastructure quicker than a lot of other places in the world.
But I think the conversation that we were having here is really top down versus bottom up, right? Do you envision a top down system as it is right now with smart cities where everything is basically okay? You can have that much energy today and water is distributed in that way. That is communism. Like,
and that's exactly the government that built it was a communist government, and I think the reason that they did it is because they didn't want to fall behind. That was like kind of the core reason.
Who's the communist? Whoever
China. Most of these smart cities are in China. Shenzhen being kind of like the poster child of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you even look at the skylines of China.
But we're happily collaborating now, right?
Have
on
you
these
been to
smart
China,
cities.
Trick?
What's that?
Have you been to China, Trick? Have you
have
been to
not.
Shenzhen? Ooh, it's rough.
Well, just look. I mean, if you just
I can't wear contacts there.
if you look at the
You know that you can't wear contacts because the smog is so bad. You walk outside, they pop out of my eyes. So I'm just saying. Like,
so
it's
the
super
smart
cool.
city is their solution to sort of fix that in the future because the way that they've been doing it in the past hasn't worked. Jerry, actually, Began, you should look up. Was it China Cyberpunk or something like that? It's just a flyover video of these skylines. I mean, You
Well,
just
you know,
look
I got to be careful. I got to see people actually go these places. This is the problem too. China's built multiple cities that then have been abandoned later on.
Of
You know what I
course, I'm
mean?
not
Like it's
saying
like
that
it's not a great example
not
of
an
like
option.
actually what we're. You know what I'm saying? That
Listen,
that is
like,
definitely part of my
China
experience going there. I'm
going
like,
through a pretty unprecedented demographic and real estate collapse that'll be a big part of the story of the next 10 years.
Very much so.
This line city, like
Mm-hmm.
the idea we're building a
Neon.
rainforest in the middle of the desert in
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, like don't get me started.
wait, what do you mean? Get them started. That sounds great.
Oh, I'll get started, but before I get started, I
Okay.
did want to say something
Carbon
else,
neutral
which was kind of
concentration
just addressing some of these discussions of like, you know, what's the advantage in this jurisdiction versus this jurisdiction. And I just feel like it's important to remember how many different dimensions there are to modern life, like how many different perspectives, how many different types of experience, and how many different inputs to
Yeah.
a city existing there really are. And probably we want to stay flexible and kind of look for the good in very diverse places. And, you know, I personally think there isn't, it's not a coincidence that a lot of the DeSci activity has come out of Berlin. And there's the cultural heritage of the guilds, which are kind of a different way of organizing than the traditional American corporation. So this is all to just say, like, I think that, you know, there's a lot of baby in all of these bathwaters, and you know we got to get rid of the bathwater, but we got to hold on to the baby. So anyway, that was just something I wanted to mention, and
you.
to give a concrete example too. We're all probably going to have to stop eating beef, y'all. So you know, none of our cities are really within the reality of what our systems are going to have to look like until, you know, for example, they figure out how to feed their people without, you know, using calories that aren't sustainable long term.
So this is so long ago. Randomly on my stream, like a million years ago, I met one of my viewers lives here in Songdo. I'm trying to find the city, and they were explaining how it's like, you know, it's like the smartest electric city ever. And they were like, yeah, it's like abandoned. I don't, it's amazing. It's like totally empty. It's the cleanest place in the world, but they're like, it's like just no one's there. And that's the reason why they're able to keep it at like such a high level is like, cool, great. We've got a smart city. Don't let anyone in. That's the only way this shit works. And so like, yeah, which is, it seems like that's another thing we keep saying. Build a smart city. We're going to be able to pack people in. No, it breaks down if you actually pack people into these places.
That is sort of a hilarious, like, calling tech support City Hall. It's like,
My
hey,
fridge
trash
won't
can.
open.
They said
I'm starving.
apparently here. This is all stuff I remember from chat. I got to look it up. They have like, you know what? You ever been in the houses that have central vacuuming? You know,
Oh, like the little.
Oh, yeah,
like,
the thing
they have that in the
Yeah.
streets,
Dude,
So their streets when you're like, oh, there's some trash, and it sucks it down. You're like,
when I learned about that, my mind was blown.
how rich
You
are
don't
people?
know about central vacuuming. It's just they build like
Your house is a
chasm
vacuum.
through your house. Yeah, your house is like a literal vacuum.
Notably, they suck though. Like they're
Yeah.
literally.
I've
and
never used it.
metaphorically.
I've only
They're-
seen
they're-
them in Blueprint.
They're so not useful.
Yeah.
I've lived in
I can
houses with
imagine.
these things, and just buy a Dyson.
Damn, Tom, just flexed on us. Okay, do you have a pot filler in your house?
Yeah. Over
See,
the stove.
I can see. I know all the accessories. Whether you're rich, number one, if you have central vacuuming, pot filler. You know what a pot filler is? That's like the richest person. It's a water thing just over your stove. If you ever meet a rich person, they'll never go to the sink to fill up their water. God, rich people are crazy here. Okay, so. No, but it's funny. We're talking about all these little cities here, and it's like, oh, great, got to make sure Berlin is more carbon neutral, or make sure San Francisco is more carbon neutral. It doesn't matter if India and China aren't going to get on the same page with, you know, reducing all of the harm they're doing to the environment. It
Well,
doesn't
they are
matter.
the ones
Like,
that are working on that
we've got-
more than us. I mean, I would say.
wait, what? Who is?
They're, India and China are like, I guess if you look at the spending, are spending more billions.
I mean,
On
they're spending.
creating solutions than.
Oh, the government's
100%.
spending money on creating solutions. That always works.
They're
I'm
spending
not
on.
saying it always
fraud.
works. I'm saying that they statistically are.
I mean, you can't trust statistics out of places. The only statistic
China-
you can trust
yeah, to
is
China.
the statistic that you can measure with satellites. Because we've seen the China like routinely lies about their. I mean, recently there's been a massive scandal about their supply chain for solar panels and how much coal was being used to make
Right.
solar panels out of China.
Absolutely.
I
Where
love
they
that.
had like four
Absolutely.
times the carbon impact that they were claiming for a
But
decade.
can we also stop here
But,
and say that every single solar company right now in the US is actually ordering solar panels from China?
Exactly. Yeah. No, seriously.
But hey, I gotta say, they sell them
Problem.
cheap. They're
They're
cheap.
cheaper, yeah.
They're cheap. So you know, I bought my close machine, my solar panels from China.
Yeah, and it's like they've specialized in that kind of industrial production, and you know that's part of the network of the global economy that allows cities like San Francisco or LA to exist the way we exist. It's really something you can't pull apart. And to Trick's point as well, I think, you guys, your point's very well taken that there's a lot of fraud, statistics and demographic fraud coming out of economies like China, but they're in the middle of industrialization, so they actually are probably investing in a bulk dollar form more than we are, because we already have infrastructure and systems in place. But that being said, like, that's one of the big rubs is like the biggest societies in the world are industrializing right now, India and China. And, the first world's kind of going like, hey, why don't you guys slow down a little bit? And they're saying, what do you mean? You already crossed the finish line. Why should we slow down, right?
Right.
So
yeah, there's something to be said about the impact that fossil fuels had on, acceleration and what benefits that brought society as a whole. And on net, there's a good argument that it brought benefits, and we just have to make sure we're at a certain point able to kind of start to quell that and turn it around and shift towards energy sources that are not going to be as harmful to the environment.
Okay, so here we go. We got Earth.org. This has to be legit. So here's the top smart cities. Singapore.
Thank you, Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore.
Singapore,
where they're
by the way,
hanging
too,
people for
a
possessing
really
marijuana.
unique and strange country geopolitically. They sort of, while being very authoritarian, have managed to match some of the quality of life measures that we really only see in like Northern European countries. And one of the reasons, or at least one of the things I've heard argued to me as to why this is the case, is their education system is incredible. Like, they really put a lot of value and money into education, and teachers who are effective teachers are kind of like seen as heroes in the society.
Yeah.
Speaking of an education system and bringing it back to AI, I think we can probably accelerate how education is distributed through these countries
100%.
using models like this. I mean, like, we have an opportunity to start to pair individual learners with a piece of software. It sounds weird, but a piece of software that can grow with them throughout their entire learning career.
Totally.
And like, what kind of an impact that can have on society-wide levels of education, I think will be one of the most profound ways that we bring countries into the
100%.
future.
And the first kids who are going to get the beautiful custom LLM tutors are going to be the rich kids with the pot fillers and the in-house vacuuming system. So
Well, it's a
I'm
beautiful
excited.
thing, honestly, in my
Org, I
opinion,
don't think
because
they're right.
now,
No, it
teachers
needs to be AR.
are basically like
that's also
screwed. We have no good way to assess
the AR
whether or
article
not
would be way
work
better.
was done, unless you watch a kid do it, whether or not work was done with the assistance of an AI or not. And that's really going to shake up the education system, and there needs to be something to shake up the education system, and hopefully that becomes a net positive.
I'm really optimistic too, and I would say, having done a lot of work adapting large language models to support medical practice, and actually, in some cases, like seeing the stress fall off of doctors' faces when they realize they don't have to fill out forms all the time anymore.
Yeah.
I think teachers are just in that same boat too, where like the real work that a teacher does is connecting with the student's heart and helping align their motivation with the lifetime process of learning. And most teachers I know, they're too busy to do that often. Like their attention is so consumed with the day-to-day administrative stuff. So I'm actually really optimistic that education is going to be one of the places where these technologies are most democratizing and positive.
But you can't think that's going to happen in America. Like, think about the Texas school system.
No, it's going to happen here.
Yeah, I feel like
And it's going to
In
happen
Texas?
here. It's going to happen in Texas
In
specifically.
Virginia?
And it's going to happen in Virginia specifically, because these are places that cannot control their citizens from getting access to these things. And these are things that are so wildly advantageous to have in your life that there's no way that they would not do it. There's no way that they would not.
I wouldn't
I
be
think
surprised if we
self-educate-
see one of these states try to actually ban like ChatGPT.
All right, here's a list of
across
all the
public
banned
schools.
books in Texas schools.
Yeah.
Let's go. Of Mice and Men. Like, dude. I'm just saying, like, if you get into Texas, like, they don't care about the future.
No, but if you think you can't buy Of Mice and Men in Texas, you're
No, you
like-
can buy Of Mice and Men in Texas, but the school system is focusing more and more on controlling what the curriculum is. So it's not like nationwide, here's what we agree on. It is specific to Texas. And someone's going to suggest anything AI, and then everyone who runs Texas, especially since they're like, controlled by, what is it called? What's the big Macmillan and the big book company that sells them all their books?
McGraw-Hill?
Yeah, you mean, exactly. McGraw-Hill.
My dad used to work for them.
Oh, of course. Gee, I'm saying, like, they're going to be like, oh, AI, unless it comes from McGraw-Hill, there's
Books
no
about
way it's coming into
political
Texas.
No,
Texas
but
school system.
that's just for the public schools of Texas. And
Yep.
if there's one thing in this country that we know is that we're routinely destroying the public school system. And what that will lead to is just a private school system. It's
Okay, then we're on the same page. Then it'll
or
destroy
no
the public
school
school system.
system.
I'm with you then. Okay,
Why
there you
wouldn't
go.
I mean, listen, like Google has rendered a lot of learning kind of obsolete, a lot of classes and courses and that type of thing. And an LLM in its current form can form tests and create outlines and give you things to look up and further study. It's really good at that, actually. So it's going to become more about how to teach people how to prompt. If you're curious about something, what are the prompts that actually lead
I'm saying
to
Texas
actually
is
learning?
never going to say, teach you how to prompt.
That's fine.
No
but
one in
doesn't-
that school is
that's
going to
just
say that.
Texas, there's still the entire rest of the world, right? And the same impact that, like I said, that Google had on learning, the LLMs will likely have that, rendering current school systems and the way that they're kind of constructed and the whole process even more obsolete than it already is.
I'm saying,
No,
but,
I mean-
but that's not. That's what's going to happen now. Is schools are not going to adapt in America. Kids are going to be using these tools, and then the school's going to do everything to push back further and further and further, just to say, "Oh, did you use anything with ChatGPT? This is now null and void." They're going to spend all their time trying to prevent it because people who run the school systems aren't progressive people. They're not like, how do we make kids smarter?
public schools.
But they
Public
they
schools.
still need-
Okay, first of all, of course you're only talking private schools.
But
The
the
kid with
public
the pot
schools will
filler
come
is
around.
talking about
They'll have
private
to come
schools.
around.
I went to public school.
The
I did my
private
class in
schools will
portables.
force the public schools to come around by having way better output on like their test scores, where kids get placed, their job opportunities. Like there will the public
Yes, it
school
will.
system is run on, just like any other system, is run on money. And if the right sort of funnel for that to continue happening isn't working, you're going to see teachers losing their jobs, and some of these like progressives that are on the board of ed, in their states and districts or whatever, losing their jobs because the schools do have to meet certain requirements that have to do with, while a lot of them are problematic, like testing kids over and over again, like there are certain requirements that have to be met. And if there's schools that just because they're using AI, these kids are all like benefiting way more, there's going to be an incentive there. The question is, how long is that time span until public schools can come around to
I mean,
this,
how long
or
did it
do we
take
see
for public
something
schools to
completely new?
start using Google? I mean, it's the same thing. I mean,
think
the
public
whole
schools
thing.
Can
with
you
the-
use
inherently
Wikipedia
incompatible.
in a public school right now for an essay?
I mean,
Can you now? They
should
couldn't
not.
before.
So I have a.
Yeah, as a source.
So we're basically thinking that
Because you
countries
should look
that
at the
basically
Wikipedia page's sources.
What's that, Adina?
Well, that's the hack.
Yeah.
So,
No.
so basically, we're thinking that countries that are not engaging in that kind of technological advancements are left behind, but the same countries that are basically not investing in education wouldn't be left behind.
Well, I think it's just
Good
that
point.
a product of public school systems as we see them in America today are not compatible with a future that we are walking into. I don't think we will have a public school system in 50 years that is viable to pick. And I don't think that's any fault of public policy. I think that's a result of technological advancement and capitalism.
Yeah.
Well, are you saying that at the level of like early education, or like including higher education, college, and
All the way
high
through.
school? I think it's hard to have a college system without public schools, because you really
Yeah.
disadvantage a lot of people by not allowing them to go to college, and I think probably colleges will be quicker to adapt to, and it's not as problematic, right? Because like you already have this foundation that you're supposed to be at, and like AI tools will probably be more accepted as like get better at like this specialized thing, and rather than like write this whole essay for me. But I don't know. Like I think right now we have a situation where students took on a lot of student loans and are in a lot of debt, and we have to fix that problem. And the schools have to adapt, but the kind of for-profit institutions that we have now are really the source of the problem. And if there are not regulatory checks on making sure that those schools are kind of meeting the right metrics, I'll keep it at that. Like, we're just going to continue to have that problem. And unless you have a regulatory body that governs private schools, I don't know how we'll correct
They're,
that.
it's called billionaires. They do it. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick.
Yeah,
This is a good question.
donations.
Who here went to public versus private school? Private school. Tom, did you go to private school?
I went to private college. I went to public.
No, I'm in high school. I'm talking high
Okay,
school.
I went to a public high school.
Okay, did everyone go to public high school? Did anyone go to
I
private?
went to public. I dropped out of high school.
Went to a private high school.
Okay, so Stanley, you went to a private high school then. Okay, cool. He's the
Wait,
smartest one. There you
Tom-
go.
Tom,
Okay, we got it.
Token Show had a question. Did you have a trash compactor? No? Okay, well, he's not that rich.
I myself really think education is going to look so different, both because the system is kind of falling apart right now and because these technologies present, I think, a really broader way of approaching learning. I myself was considered a gifted youth, and so my family.
Shocking.
I know. Trust me, it's a whole.
Doesn't mean much. So was I. So.
But anyway, it was like I was given thank you, Becky. I was given a tutor when I was young.
Nice.
And I think of it as like my ChatGPT experience. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a person who was very well educated, who I could just ask questions to and sort of let my curiosity explore and
Totally.
develop. And I really look back on that as the formative experience that helped me be a leader and a teacher for others. And so I really am curious if like we're going to be able to do something very different with the educational system, if we're really going to be able to take gifted students and not give them that common experience of being left behind, of always being too much in their classroom settings, like relative to the teacher who has to kind of
Yeah.
keep peace and keep order. And if those students who are gifted as thinkers and leaders are really going to step into the breach and lead the charge on education, and if we're going to maybe have a system that's a lot more horizontally integrated and less centralized in terms of controlling who learns what when.
I think it just comes down to the uncomfortable truth that most teachers are bad at their job, and they really shouldn't be the ones teaching children. But the fact is, we cannot train excellent teachers at a volume that can accommodate the amount of kids we have, because we all agree every single kid should have access to excellence in education.
Yeah.
But that's not.
But it's also the salaries too. Come on now. I know people are super smart, and like I have so many friends that became teachers and they quit after 5 years. 'Cause they go, I get paid nothing to be shit on all day. Why the fuck am I doing this? And they all go into private or something else because there's not enough money in it. If you paid higher money for it, like
We don't
I-
invest
my dad
nearly
was a high
enough in
school
education.
teacher.
I think the education budget is like $200 billion compared. That's like not even a third of the defense budget. It's pretty
it's like
nuts.
imagine how good would software be if software developers made 40-50 a year,
not good.
you know?
Yeah.
Not good. Yeah.
My dad was a high school teacher growing up. He taught graphic design for a bit, and then he became the IT lead. And
Okay, so that was a rich kid school.
He-
You have a graphic design class? What the heck kind of
he
school is
loved
this?
his
You had a
job.
pool at your school
It was
too?
like he did the black room, and then when they got computers,
You have a dark room at your
they had
school?
the dark room.
How nice
sick.
is your
it was
school?
it was a
Well,
vocational
the
school.
Underwater basket weaving.
that
was
makes
in the
sense.
same
Yeah.
building,
Yeah,
so they share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I myself, I went to a very.
You had a dark room in your public high school also?
No, my point is that he loved it. He got his summers off, and he got to do.
Sure.
He took a
There's
sabbatical.
some
and-
great benefits.
Exactly.
But
It's not all.
It's very variable. Like,
And he was a
you
good
know,
But
teacher.
wait, stop. That also is different. Think about inflation. Like this is the big problem too, right? At one point, a teacher salary is not as bad. Look at how teacher salaries have grown compared to inflation. Much worse. So you're comparing it to when you're a kid
Well,
to
you're gonna
now.
have to go
It's
through
not
the
the same
same
story.
things- the
And
same-
classrooms are way more packed, and everything's expanding now.
It's okay. Well, there was no computers in the school when he started, and he was the person that got computers in the school, built a network, did all that type of stuff, right? You're gonna need those. You're gonna have those type of pioneers, teachers.
You say
that
you're
are
going to
within
have those, and they're leaving schools more and more every year.
Listen, my dad was one of those
Start YouTube
people, and I'm sure
channels.
that there's going to be somebody else. That
No, I'm saying you're
takes
saying a couple
AI
people, but this
what
is the
I'm
trends are
saying
going
is
the
it's gonna
opposite way.
Take somebody with some balls to go to the principal and go through the process politically to actually get AI implemented in the system. And it could be some sort of open source pre-trained custom model or something that's specific for that school. It doesn't necessarily have to be ChatGPT. But to think that can't be done and that somebody at some school system anywhere in the country doesn't have that power, I think is a bit short-sighted.
No, I think depending on, I want someone extra to spend more time out of their day for very, very little money to do something very hard and engage in politics. That's a stupid incentive system, right? You're saying,
What I'm saying is
so you're
my
saying,
dad
someone,
did
I
that.
hope someone magical
People
comes
did
along
that.
and works extra outside of their job and deals with the hell that is working with different administrators. Just someone will do it. You're hoping for a god to come out. That system's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. Those people will go into other fields. I'll go teach at a private school, put in awesome networks, 3D printers, all the school stuff, make more money, have smaller classrooms with better kids. Like, sure, someone could want to be a hero out there, but we've built a system that relies on heroes. Teachers have to buy their own school supplies. That's stupid. We can't be doing that.
I couldn't agree with you more, but I think it really just underlines Trick's point that our society's kind of floating around on the backs of these uncompensated heroes, quite frankly.
Exactly.
But I really do think, like, I'm working with a number of friends in education, just exploring how they can use ChatGPT as a tool to make their work easier, and starting to see some kind of cool, positive ways they can use it. I also think, as students and teachers both become more used to using these tools, it'll be really interesting to see how it evolves. But I quite frankly think we need to start paying teachers more. I would basically support any political candidate who made that a major part of their policy. And it's something that we need to do for the good of our economy. There's been some interesting studies that kind of like tried to isolate the statistical effect of the most effective teachers. And they basically found that if you are in the classroom of a teacher who's a top teacher, one of these people who's motivated and, brings interpersonal energy to their work and like connects with the students, your lifetime earnings from just being in that teacher's class for 1 year go up over $5 million.
And studies like that are exact examples of why LLM teachers will be better than most teachers. This is like, you will be able to replicate the teacher that does that for people and spread it across everybody, rather than relying on humans being teachers, because most of them can't produce that output.
But you also have to acknowledge the black swan that situation is, and that most people don't have access to those teachers. So there's also good studies showing the opposite, where on average the teacher makes no difference to your economic impact. So like
there's the complete opposite, okay? Because if you have a teacher that really puts you down, tells you you're never going to become nothing, you're never going to amount to anything, sometimes you come up with a fire mixtape and you blow up and you make even more money.
true.
So there's the opposite. You either need a 1% teacher and you'll make $5 million extra, or you need one that just shits on you. And then I've got like Chief Keef style intros for.
What about all the schools like Waldorf and Rudolf Steiner that are like dancing their name right now and are learning about emotional intelligence, and you tell them to replace those
I
with
was
LLMs?
Involved in one of these alternative schools, or at least their curriculum design, one that's based on something called the Sudbury model. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, the Sudbury model is kind of radically anti-authoritarian, and it kind of starts from that saying like, education isn't filling a bucket, it's lighting a fire. So the full focus of the educational effort is put on creating in the students the self-drive and the self-motivation to learn. So they don't tell students you have to take a class. They don't give students assignments or anything like that. Classes are created when a group of students comes together and say they want to learn something. And again, like, this is a pretty radical far end of like what's possible educationally. I've seen it.
It's very close to how I studied philosophy in Berlin. It was very similar. Yeah.
When you said it familiar with those as kind of cousin movements or related movements. But anyway, it's like when I've seen this work, it has been because the teachers are the most brilliant, passionate people who are motivated because they really want to see the education system better. So, I don't think this is like broadly applicable, but aspirationally, and with the idea that large language models are going to make a lot of these things easier. The things that I've seen happen in Sudbury schools are really amazing, because you have these 14-year-old kids, 15-year-old kids. They've been in traditional school systems. They've gotten so used to being part of a system that tells them they have to ask to go to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
And when they're put in a place where they have actual agency over their time, they don't know what to do. And the common pattern is the student will goof around and just play Minecraft for 2 months and hang out with their friends.
Sick.
But then, well, listen, that is sick. And so much of my value as a machine learning scientist comes from my experiences goofing around with servers and video games with my friends as a kid. So I don't know. I think there's something to it. But yeah, the thing that they see is almost invariably within 3 months, within 4 months, the kid who's been playing Minecraft will like want to make the Taj Mahal with their friends or something like that. And then all of a sudden, like they approach a teacher and they're like, could we do a class on this? And I just think that if we had students leaving high school with that self-motivation and that ability to direct their own learning, we would be in so much of a better place than whatever little facts we're able to squeeze into their head.
But this is because of like, it's all about incentive models. What do we make for incentive models for the education system? So in America, we all know that, what was it? No Kid Left Behind was one of the worst things we've ever done, possibly, because we said, how do we actually allocate money to schools? We're going to base it off of people passing this test. So what did everyone say? We have to focus entirely on this test. What is this test? It's the baseline knowledge. What does that mean? You're gifted? Great. You're going to pass. Don't worry about you. Tom, you're my problem student. You're getting all the attention right now. And then every person who's got any type of like, already going to pass it isn't worthless to me. There's no reason even talking to them because I need to focus on getting my funding. I'm going to lose my funding by one fucking kid right here. How could I ever pay attention to you? I'm going to lose my funding because of this kid right here. Tom, you get what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to align incentives to wherever the money is coming from in some like actual repeatable way, right? It's all cybernetics, okay, guys? It's all, feedback loops, but yeah, I mean, truthfully, from this, I don't believe in the school system. That's why if I have children, I'm trying to get some right now. We're going to unschool them. We're taking them out of school, okay? We're homeschooling them. That's the way to do it, okay?
And
then
to get some children?
Yeah, I'm working on them. I'm trying to find some. You know what I mean? I'm trying to find like a little gifted child that's going to go into a public school. I'm like, no, come with me. We're going to be,
The studio should adopt
Yeah, one child. Yeah, all my friends that have kids, they all know I always am yelling at them like, "Are you doing musical training with them? When are they starting their programming? How are they? They're gonna be super geniuses." So
I think there's definitely something to be said about self-directed learning, and like almost all of the self-taught programmers that I know like had this kind of like eureka moment where they were like, "Oh, I could fucking teach myself anything."
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because like once you learn the process of finding the right information, building the blocks that get you to your final system, whatever you're building. It's all a matter of learning the foundational pieces and building on top of that. But like, if you talk to anyone who has never had to encounter that, who has never done any sort of programming or had to build something from scratch, or they read a manual, like they ask them to like search for something on Google, and like you'll watch them write in their search queries, and you'll look at them like, how is this how you search?
100%.
Like there's no like finesse to it or strategy in the search using certain keywords or saying things in the right way. But like as like programmers, we're just like, yeah, you have to do it. This is how
Beacon's
you
looking
search.
at me right now. I can tell. He's just giving that look. You see my searches.
I got to TA one of the country's hardest introductory honors calculus classes for a few years. It was the most fun I've ever had, I think.
Nice.
Like working with students who were wanting to be particle physicists and like trying to learn the math like as well as they could. But yeah, one of the things that was really fascinating is how much so for this class, you could either qualify by having like a perfect score on the BC Calc test or passing like the university test. And every student who qualified by passing the BC Calc test really struggled. And I think it was because they were used to learning math in a system, where there was a very expected set of things they had to learn each week, and each thing would correspond to a problem. So it was like, oh, I learned this theorem, and that's the problem connected to that theorem. And there was almost just like this blandness to the way the education was presented. And then when we actually were like trying to learn hard shit, each week, they just kind of they didn't have any sort of internal idea of how to apply themselves to that.
Yeah, it's such an important skill that I think we need to teach, because I think this applies directly to prompting large language models. And if we're going to use them as tutors, like you do have to be able to ask the right question, and they are biased in certain ways. And what we talked about in some of our conversations on certain papers of how tokens can influence the output, and how if you ask something one way, you'll get one form of answer, but you kind of have to be a little bit skeptical and see, maybe I should like ask it a different way to see if the answer changes at all, not taking it at face value. And like that skill is like
critical thinking.
Yeah, it's critical thinking, and it's like can't be taken for granted. And it's something that I think a lot of people are going to have to learn if we want to see a society where like people are leveraging AIs to amplify education.
And I think some of the rote learning can now be handled by the LLMs.
Yeah, who wants to do any type of rote learning? It makes zero sense. Yeah, it's funny if you like hire people, right? What's the only thing that matters is like, are they going to be able to teach themselves the things that I don't have time to teach them? I've got to get shit done. Can you teach yourselves these big? That's it. It's like, are you an autodidact? Either yes or no. And if you are, how efficient are you at doing it? And if you're not efficient, like, you're pretty much useless. But I think, like, you brought the one thing up, which I'm pretty obsessed with, which is if anyone's interested in one thing, you got to let them just go down that route. And this is the dumb thing we do all the time in schools. Oh, you're not that good at English. We'll double down on English. It's like, what's he good at? Math. Let's triple down on math. What are you talking about? He loves math. He's killing it at math. More math. Why are you like making?
Like, why do we need my daughter would be learning about cats, and that's pretty much
That's
it.
fine. Why can't that be it then? Well,
cats.
okay, cool. Then veterinarian, human, but there's things to do. Like, you literally can
Go deeper.
Well, you go deeper in the thing. Yeah,
Encourage them to go deeper. Yeah,
Dissect a cat, you mean?
yeah, well, maybe.
Okay,
Did you?
fine.
We actually did. Do you guys do that in your school? We did
Yeah, I did
frogs.
a frog
I did an
cat.
octopus.
I
You did
think-
a cat?
No.
Oh,
I can just imagine.
yeah, dude. The hardest part was catching the cat.
Today we're
But,
gonna dissect a kitty. This is where they purr.
in my second grade class, we worked with the human brain.
That's sick.
I went to Palo Alto, so all the students had like parents who were Stanford faculty and stuff.
He
so
definitely had
So
a
each
trash
one had a brain at
compactor.
home, their own. Sorry.
It was very
Bring
very
your brain
funny.
to
It was
work
cool
day.
to be exposed to that stuff though.
No, but
growing
like
up.
it's like, well, even like, it's funny because when I was in like high school, I was like a lazy kid. So like most of the kids who were like, honors, whatever, you take every honors class, right? So you're both like, you take AP class, you take all the AP classes, and I was like, no, I don't like them. I don't want to do AP English.
Yeah.
The English teacher's
I
a
didn't wanna
dick.
do any of that.
I was like, I like music and I like math. So I did every single music class and every single math class, and I was out of classes to take by my sophomore year. And it was great, and I could just relax and be myself and learn about music, But it's like, why this weird thing of like, oh, you're really good at music, you better be good at English. It's like, why the fuck
No,
do
I
we have
was
to
the
do
same
that?
way.
It's just
like modern education did not serve me well at all. Like I if I was taught in a way that was like pursue the thing that's most interesting to you, I probably would be at a different place than I am now in terms of like my skill at that area.
Totally.
But it wasn't until I got to a level of my education and career that I started self-directed learning and doing those things on my own that I kind of became what I wanted to become.
But think about how spongy your brain is when you're young, and if
Yeah.
you could have spent that time when your brain was that spongy,
That's
putting in
when
the
you
shit
need
you
to do it.
actually like and use today instead
I
of
think about that all the time.
goddamn stupid shit, like the dumbest things ever. Like, sorry, which
Yeah,
is rote
like,
memorization
all the time. Like I'm going back to learn some math shit that I didn't want to take in high school because I thought math was stupid and there was no
Hey,
applications
hey,
for
hey,
it.
hey.
Yeah, I
Be
know.
careful.
know,
This
I
guy
didn't
loves
mean to
math.
But I'll tell you,
But that was just like how my education experience was. It was like I had these shitty math teachers who were like dicks, and like I just like didn't want to spend any time like doing it and dealing with them. So never studied, like managed to do fine, but I didn't go into like AP classes or anything like that, and I was happy about it. Just like you said, like
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want to do that extra work. I wanted to go outside and play with my friends and like play video games and like whatever. And I had a great childhood because of that. But now like looking back at it, I was like, if they had told me that I could align large language. No.
No, it's actually funny. See, I made math. I like math. I did the nerdiest thing possible. I took math in summer school every year until I ran out of maths ahead of time. So it would be with the kids who failed, and then there'd be me, and I'm like, I'm getting ahead. But I was like a little shithead, and so I remember I would get in trouble still because I was really into like death metal and black metal when I was younger. And so I remember in summer school classes, all the kids are all like kind of like bad kids, and then I'm getting ahead. But I would always make my projects like Satan based, or it would always like. I remember I did a project like demonic conics on conics, and they literally were like, "We need to talk. Your son might be evil. He will not stop." And I was like, I would sit in class all day listening to death metal and just like loving the math, and I made it fun. You just gotta, you just gotta. Yeah, exactly. Like, no, well, first of all, not 666, 616, because as you know, 666 is a mistranslation. It's actually, I don't want to get too deep. Okay.
That's just the best kind of student to have, though. And
Oh no, they didn't
really
like
think-
me. I
Wow.
did a meeting saying, "Is your kid evil? Is he sacrificing animals?" And they were like, "No, he's just a weirdo." And it all worked. And I was like, Then they told him, they were like, "He's taking this to get ahead." And they were like, "What?" I thought he was like the world's worst bad kid, but okay. Okay, that's enough. I think it might be time to end with that ridiculousness because we do have other people here. So it's time for the hackathon portion here. Hey, chat. Thank you for all coming and hanging out with us and
Chat,
talking
thank you,
here.
Token Show.
We love you
Thank you,
guys.
Kim.
Thanks for everyone who spoke up here. We're going to go hang out now
Appreciate you.
IRL now, though, okay? We have an audience somehow now because we went too late. So, hey, Jerry, can you stop the stream?